97 of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Hare. With us is Coach Bill Neese. Coach, tough loss last week. Indians fall just short by 34-33 to Sydney, but what a ball game, and it really comes down to the last minute of the game, but boy, a lot of great plays throughout the game.
I think there were some great plays throughout the entire process. We had a great week of preparation. The thing I was most proud of is our players continued to battle. We were in a tie game with 2 minutes left to go. Sydney jumped ahead. We weren't able to block the extra point, and then we worked our way back down the field. And we just really felt we had the momentum at that point that we would go ahead and try to win the game rather than taking it into an overtime situation.
Well, go back to halftime when we were down 21-7 and come right out of the gates right from the get-go, and we get a big score.
Yeah, and again,
set the tone.
And again, the things that were important were the fact that when things went bad for us a couple times, and just like with things going bad for Sydney a couple times, both groups of people, rose up and overcame it. And I think that was a tribute to everybody that was on the field. It was a great game. Unfortunately, we weren't able to win it, but otherwise it was a great game.
Well, you talk about that last play, what do you do? And, we had talked about that. You really felt going into it, had several plays prior to that, with the score, the idea was, hey, we were going to go for two, we're going to go for the win.
Yeah, we knew coming down, as soon as we got the ball the last part, we'd all decided that we were going to go. The players were on board, everybody was on board, so we had the process of thinking about that. And then when you get down to the final play, the thought process goes through your minds, you want to do what you do best, but the other team also is probably going to understand that, or you want to try to trick them. Sometimes you get too tricky and you do something you're not very good at, and then you kick yourself in the butt for not saying, hey, let's just do what we do best, and that's what we tried to do.
Indians now move on to Greenville this week, back on the road to what has historically always been a tough place for the Indians to play. It'll be a little bit different this time. We go back, they've actually just put field turf on it this year, so that will be a different look for the Indians. Don't be fooled by the record. Greenville is a strong team.
Yeah, I think from this point on, that's just going to be, don't be fooled by the record. It's going to be a broken record. From this point on, when you're getting in the GWAC North, because all those teams are quality football teams. You've got Greenville coming up, who we understand, we're familiar with one another. We understand they play a power football game. Vandalia Butler coming up is also, the thing that we have a chance to do is as coaches, we have a chance when we're trading tapes and everything to get a glimpse of some of the other teams. So we've seen Vandalia Butler play. We've seen Tip City play. We've seen Troy play. All these teams on film, and all these guys are quality people. It's going to come down to who's executing, who's got some late season injuries, who's mentally still in it, and those type of things. So it's going to be a very important last 4 weeks of the season.
Talk a little about Greenville. You're talking about being a power football team, but what are some of the things that the Indian Nation can expect to see Friday night in Greenville?
Well, they're going to be a tailback-orientated offense. They run a two-back offense, but they do break out of it and run a little bit of the spread. Defensively, they run a defense almost exactly like ours. So it'll be a good preparation for us this week because we'll have our JVs be able to read their own stuff and be able to line up, as we do. And they're just a solid football team, all the way across the board.
What are keys to the game for the Indians to walk out of Greenville with a win?
Well, I think we're going to have to get out to a quick start. I think that when you come back on a Monday after a rival game, even winning or losing, the concentration level has got to get zeroed back in, and I think we did that. I think we know what we need to do for this week, and I think a fast start is going to be the key for us to make sure we get that thing rolling and get them out of that power offense, see if we can get them into the spread, and make sure that if they start running multiple defenses that we're able to use our rules offensive line-wise and be able to get our ground game going.
Our feature seniors this week, Sam Herndon and Alex Phillips, a little bit about both of those guys and how they have meant to this program, particularly this year.
I think both of those guys are outstanding players. I had the pleasure of having them both in my class, also as students. Sammy's a two-sport player for us, does a great job in the classroom, on the field, very responsible. I believe he's already got his college work set. He'll tell you about that when he comes on. And he's been a possession receiver for us. He's our fourth receiver, goes in for our spread formations, and just been outstanding for us, also on special teams. And then Phil has been a guy in our program again for 3-4 years. He's taken all my weightlifting classes, so he's been with us for a long time. He's found his niche in our football program. He does a very good job, helping us organize as coaches. He does a good job of helping us when we're on offense to be able to spot the ball and get new footballs in and things along those lines. So we feel very fortunate to be able to have him in our program for the last 4 years.
Both guys have made their contributions in different ways, but certainly guys that have made their mark, and those are the kind of guys we need to have in our program to make it successful.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, Phil's important enough that he has his own key to the equipment room, so he can get in there and get stuff when he needs it. So we feel like he's an important part of the program.
Well, Coach, we certainly wish you well as we travel to Greenville and take on the Green Wave.
Thank you.
We will be back for part 2 of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. Remember, the game this Friday is at Greenville, kickoff at 7 p.m. We'll be back for the second half of the Coaches Show. We will talk to Sam and Alex. Welcome to the second half of the Bill Neese's Coaches Show. I'm your host, Chip Hare. With us is one of our senior football players, Alex Phillips. Alex, welcome to the Bill Neese Coaches Show.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, great. Talk a little bit about your role, what position you play, and let's start with the position you play.
Well, I play as a wide receiver, and what I do mainly on the football team is assist in most ways possible, such as keeping the equipment room all set up and help making sure the offense and defensive, we get the most reps out of them.
Coach Nees talked a lot about your organization. You always got the ball spot. You're always ready to go.
Yep.
You keep our team organized. What's it been like for you in that role for you helping the coaches out and helping our team?
It's been good. I know probably there could be a few other people that could do it better, but just knowing that I would be the only one willing to do it was kind of interesting.
Well, I think the other part of that you have coaches and players that believe in you and have a lot of respect for what you do. So that's got to be good. That's got to be from your perspective. That's got to be something neat.
Yep. And that's like, there's quite a bit of times where I can find it be a little bit stressful when I have like a kind of an off day of catching or just practice in general.
Well, and that's I think the good thing about is there's the dependability that you bring day in and day out, and I know the coaches, as Coach Nees has mentioned, you really appreciate it. So thanks for all you do.
Thanks.
Talk about your players a little bit now. So your teammates must think enough of you, so they voted you they nominated you, I should say, on the homecoming court. Talk a little bit about that process as we just finished up homecoming game. You were part of that process. We'll talk about the end result. Some people may not know about the end result, but just getting on the homecoming court and being nominated on the homecoming court, how did that make you feel?
Before, I felt a little bit nervous because that was not much of something I enjoy. I don't like being a part of the spotlight or just being
like being on TV.
By attention. Yes, that's it. But like at first, I was a little bit nervous. I was thinking about getting out of it till I just decided to just keep going and be a part of it
and enjoy the process.
Yeah.
So you're part of the photo shoots, and you're all part of the video that of course went on at the video board, and being a part of the festivities, part of homecoming, just that alone had to have been a neat process.
Yeah, it was. I went through a lot of stuff that I choose to not be involved in too much of. So yeah, that was interesting also. So
now you get to Saturday night. It's at the dance. They announce homecoming king. Now they announce homecoming queen, of course, on Friday night at the football game of halftime. And Asia Johnson was named homecoming queen at halftime. They named the king at the dance. It's been a tradition here at Pickle High School. And Saturday night at 10 o'clock in the Commons of Pickle High School, the homecoming king was
me,
Alex Phillips. And to be on court is one thing, but to name the king, that had to be just a phenomenal feeling.
Yeah, it was like a mixture between excited, nervous a bit, just all of it. Just almost a wounded ball of emotion.
Well, congratulations. Not that I want to call you want to be noted as king, but that's something you'll remember for the rest of your life, and that'll be something that you will forever be ingrained in just the experience of it, much less being crowned king. So congratulations.
Thanks.
We get ready to graduate, and so now tell us a little bit about what your plans are. I know where you're away, but what are some of your plans once you graduate from Pickle High School?
Well, my original plan was to go to Edison State and then go to University of Dayton, but my parents have brought up like some college opportunity I could do, that I can go to this one school and then transfer over to UD and still have like all the credits from UD.
What school's that?
I don't remember. That's the hard part.
Well, the transferability right now of community colleges and other schools that you can do is certainly a lot easier. And if your last school that you're going to go to is University of Dayton, not a bad school. I've heard a few people go there, and it's a pretty good place to go.
Right.
Former graduate myself, I have to tell you, you'll walk out with a good degree, and you'll walk out with good opportunities.
Right.
Alex, again, congratulations for not just homecoming, but being a part of the Pickle program, and we certainly wish you luck the rest of the season.
All right.
Alex, thanks.
Thanks
For being a part of the Coach Nees show. Absolutely. We will be back with part 3, first time this year. Part 3 will be later with Sam Herndon, Sr., the Indian Nation. Again, remember the kickoff for Friday night at Greenville at 7 o'clock for GWalk North action. Part 3, we'll be back with Sam in just a little bit. Welcome to part 3 of the Coach Bill Nees show. With us right now is Sam Herndon, Sr. Sam, talk a little bit about your position and what you do here for the Indians this year.
I'm a wide receiver. I sub in for every wide receiver position, number 1, number 2, number 3. I'm a senior, so I'm seen as a leader among the team, and I help out the team during practice and during the game.
How's this season been for you? I know we're going into week 7, which is hard to believe. Indians are 3-3. Had some good wins, had some tough losses. But from your perspective, how's the season been, and how do you see the season finishing?
I think the season's been great. We've played well as a team, and we've played a lot of really high-performance teams, really good teams, and I think the season's just going to get better because we've already gotten a lot of our really tough games out of the way, so I feel like it's going to get better from here.
Speaking of tough games and tough situations, you had a tough situation last year when you broke your leg, and you bounced back from that. You were able to wrestle, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But how gratifying has it been for you that you've been able to keep injury-free and still being able to contribute to the program this year?
It's been awesome. Last year, I broke my leg during the JV game during Trotwood, and I pretty much missed the rest of the season up until Troy game. So not having to just sit back and watch everybody else practice has been pretty nice, being able to practice myself.
Well, we talk about you participating in as a wrestler. That is probably your sport that you enjoy the most and have had a lot of success in. In fact, your sophomore year, you're one match away from getting to the state tournament in Columbus and winning at the regional meet at Fairmont. Talk a little bit about wrestling. What's wrestling been for you, and what does it mean to you to be a wrestler?
Wrestling's been great. When you wrestle, it teaches you how to work hard, which helps you with other sports, with school, with everything. As long as you're a hard worker, you can usually get stuff done, and wrestling is just fun. I love it. I love to wrestle, and I love to play football, and one helps with the other. So.
Well, very mature, and the one thing that I've noticed about you is when people aren't looking is when you're working hard. I see you jumping rope and doing all the work that is in the corner that people may not notice because you put a lot of individual work in. I think that goes to your family but I think you got a good perspective on life. Talk a little bit about that, your family, and how they've been an impact on your life.
They're great. My mom and dad help me a lot with wrestling. They help me get the food that I need. They remind me to do my homework. They push me to be the best in wrestling and grades and football and pretty much everything that I do.
That gentle nudge we all need in life.
Yeah.
speaking of life, where we're going to be graduating, where are we going to be a year from now? What's some of the thoughts that you have? I know you put a lot of time and energy into this thought process as well.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Wisconsin. Wisconsin has my major. They have the genetics major that I want. They're #1 in the country with genetics, and I'd really like to go there and study genetics at Wisconsin. But tuition is really expensive, and if that doesn't work out, then I'd like to come somewhere in Ohio and study more molecular biology as a major.
Genetics is a big part of who we are, and for you to be interested in that, I think that says a lot about not just your intellect level, but who you are as an individual. So we wish you well with that and hope things work out, whether it be at Wisconsin or anywhere here in Ohio.
All right, thank you.
Certainly wish you luck as well the rest of the season, and we will look forward to getting a win on Friday night at Greenville.
Yeah, for sure.
Indians will be at Greenville on Friday night. Again, kickoff is at 7 o'clock. They got a brand new turf field. I think the Indian Nation will be surprised as to how that looks compared to when we were there a couple years ago. Again, kickoff at 7 o'clock, Greenville in a GWalk North game, Week 7. For Sam Herndon, I'm Chip Hare, your host. We will see you next week and see you at the Indian Nation Station catching the game on Friday night.